Hey, so this time I'm going to talk about one of the questions that probably I get asked the most. And I guess maybe it applies sometimes to musical instruments, but more than that to singing from people who are actually really good at playing some instrument. And that's this, well, do I have to practice exercises? Because I find exercises really boring and tedious and I don't have time to fit them into my day. And it's really difficult because breathing and your kind of facial expressions and the way you move your jaw and things like that, they're habitual processes. Like they're things that you learn as a kid, like you copy your parents' facial expressions, and you learn at school, like you're slumped over writing something the whole time, so you learn really bad breathing habits, and it just, by and large, you're kind of stuck with that for the rest of your life, unless you spend time doing it differently. So, in a way, that's your yoga class. You sit there kind of in a perfectly upright position and kind of with your shoulders nice and open and your neck and shoulders relaxed, and you're breathing to a particular practice, to a particular rhythm, and that will change the way that your breathing works day by day, because you're rewiring brain cells, by training them to behave differently, which is great. The thing is, it's boring, right? It's like, okay, am I now going to take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes out of my day to do something differently for a while, paying attention to it? And I think what I figured out with this, I mean, your breathing and the way you move your muscles in your neck and your face, they don't have to be perfect. Because perfect can sound pretty boring, actually, at the end of it. Like natural singers, generally, people who you listen to them, like, oh, naturally they've got this amazing tone to their voice, and it might be a bit breathy, or it might be a bit gravelly, or it might be just really soft and gentle, whatever it is. And they've got these natural habits that are not perfect, but they bring in a small quantity some uniqueness. And some habit brings something really beautiful to your voice. So you're not practicing to be perfect. You're practicing to be more consistent. You're practicing to perhaps have more capability to do some things that you would really like to do with your voice. So, okay, how do we practice in a way? Do we have to practice? This is the point, isn't it? Do I have to do exercises? Well, no. You don't have to do exercises, because something is not either an exercise or not an exercise. There are gradations in between. So let me give an example of what I'm saying. I think that the effectiveness of any practice to change your habits with your voice is effectively, it's the amount of time you spend doing it. The more time you spend doing it, the more effective it will be in rewiring your habits. I think also it's based on the amount of attention you can pay to it. So if you've got screaming kids who you're looking after while you're singing, or if you're playing an instrument while you're singing, or if you're doing the washing up while you're singing, those things will detract from the amount of attention that you're actually able to pay to the practice. And thirdly, there's how much joy you're getting from it. So if you're doing some boring jaw exercise that you read from some singing teaching book, then you're not going to get much joy from it. And there's going to be a limit to the amount of benefit that can give you. Although in small quantities, it might certainly be very instructive. So I think the idea is to sort of try and balance those three factors. Like, okay, how much time can I spend doing this? Well, if I'm not washing up and I'm not playing an instrument and I'm not looking after my kids, probably not very much time, actually. I've got about 3 minutes of that every day, And attention-wise, well, I often say, like, for someone who's a really good instrumentalist, you're gonna, the joy factor is going to go down quite considerably if you're not playing the instrument, because you love, like, the feeling of doing both, and that's what you're excited about getting good at. But I would say, like, your singing practice comes maybe when you're playing something really quite simple or something that you've got absolutely down. So, like, your hands are down here and they're doing things and you could be having a conversation. Like, I'm not kidding. And if you can't do that playing your instrument, then frankly, you're not ready to bring that instrument to a voice. And I know that sounds like a really kind of a harsh judgment, but I think a lot of instrumentalists, they're really good, but they're really good while they're staring at what they're doing and they're crouched over it and they're not doing something else. Unless you can, maybe not quite have a conversation, but unless you've got some real like distance and space between this is going on down here, this is all going on down here, and then up here is where your head is, and that's completely separate. They're really independent. You can be looking around and that kind of thing. If you're at that stage, then at that point you can practice singing at the same time as playing an instrument, but not otherwise. And so the idea is you build up a practice. It's not exercises, but it's perhaps, maybe it's singing in the shower, right? So you find some simple songs. Like I had a period of very intensive practice for a few months, and I did it with a bunch of jazz standards. So I was sort of there with actually a fairly cold shower over me most of the time, sort of singing away, summertime and the living is easy. And it wasn't actually particularly beautiful. Like, my voice doesn't really lend itself to that kind of thing, but it was an idea of, okay, what's my diaphragm doing, what's my jaw doing, and really paying attention to how I was singing those songs. And so I won't do it now because it's just embarrassing, but I was doing sort of mimics of various soul musicians, and I was having fun doing that. You know, I turned the practice into fun, but I made it really quite simple, so there wasn't much else that I was doing at the same time, and it was something that I kind of vaguely enjoyed, and so I was able to focus some attention on it for a space of time, you know. And you can build that into your shower, you can build that into your washing up, you can build that into spending time with kids, and you can do a little bit, you can build that into your practice playing with an instrument as well. And maybe if you're really, you know, if you find something you really enjoy, you can actually spend some time just focusing on the singing. But it's a question of minimizing the other stuff that you're doing, like instruments, kids, showers, washing up, and maximizing the things that actually make you enjoy it. So sing things that are fun and low pressure, you know, and then you can focus on something that will really be working on your technique, maybe not as much as singing exercises, but the thing is you'll enjoy it, and so you'll do it more, you'll spend more time on it. And that's kind of the idea with building up a practice. So it's a practice rather than exercises. So do I need to do exercises? No. Do I need to build up a practice? Yes, because you're rewiring your neurons, and the only way, like, I know what a neuron is, I'm not a brain scientist, you know, you're rewiring this. You're programming it to behave differently. So you do need to practice, but you don't need to do exercises. I should have just said that at the start, shouldn't I? See you next time.